thinking about their insights, the language they use, what terms they use to describe biodiverse places. It shows the depth and knowledge of the places that they look at. And it's fair to say, throughout my life, I've been able to do a lot. I've been very fortunate and lucky and passionate to learn as much about these biodiverse places as I can. So there's a lot of interesting overlap I see between my very small, brief exposure to biodiverse places compared to the deep, broad, and vast indigenous knowledge that people whose very livelihoods and communities thrive in. I can almost equate to, like, I wish, I'm earning a PhD in marine conservation, but I wonder what kind of knowledge, how much knowledge it would take for me to match up to them. And so I think this is really helpful to try to draw that connection and to put you guys in the place. Where was the first place you remember being in a diverse ecosystem? How did it make you feel? What were the kind of words or terms that came to your mind when you thought about these places? And what was your role in it? We kind of talk a little bit about biodiversity stewardship, right? Like, what is our role? How do we, our guardians, if you will, protect and manage these ecosystems? For us as scientists, we do it through research. Indigenous communities, they do it through everyday life. And so there's often disconnects between our different communities, right, of an awareness of what biodiversity means, how it impacts our lives. And what we're trying to do is draw a connection between both the scientists and indigenous communities through art, through beautiful images and information like this. But this is kind of just setting the stage. And so next we're going to introduce Dr. Monica Medina. She has some really exciting backgrounds about how this program got started and what we have planned for you. Okay.
Okay. So this is our tentative list of speakers because some of them are actually potentially, hopefully, zooming in from the Amazon rainforest. So that's why I'm saying tentative. But yeah, this is me. And the rest of the participants will be virtual, but they're key and they're very excited to be with us. And I guess at some point we'll share the screen. Yeah, you can't see them here, but you will see them eventually. So I am a coral reef scientist and I study climate change. I study coral algal symbiosis, and now we are really developing the awesome, exciting techniques with both of these young men to study the Anthropocene and how we can reconstruct the effects of climate change on microbial communities in coral holobionts, because corals have in their skeleton something similar to tree rings. And we can now reconstruct the history of centuries in these skeletons. So my research is very linked to what is happening in the planet, but that's all I'm going to say about that today. Because it increasingly, as I started to work in Colombia, where I'm originally from, and started to be more in touch with the fishing communities that live next to these reefs, things change for me. You know, I do genome science and we are lab rats and we work with computers and we go in the field and bring the samples back. When you're embedded in the ecosystem and you start to see the reality, and when corals, you know, are the canary in the coal mine and they're going to be the first ones to go and they're pretty much gone. It's just call to action, you know, and for me, it became increasingly urgent to do something about it because not doing something is no longer an option. So I went to the COP16 in my hometown in Cali, Colombia last year, and I was gonna engage primarily in the science side of things, and I ended up doing like 15 events because the COPs are like that. It's crazy, and some of you may have been, and they're pretty intense. But the one that I'm most excited about is this event called Science, Art, Symbiosis. We organized it at the New Science Museum, and that inspired all the things that have transpired since then and what we're gonna do today. So this is a video that shows what happened at that event. Hugo is sitting right there with his computer, And we were interacting with the audience. I was the scientist and a painter was there, and we convened the scientists from the COP and the artists, local artists primarily, but there were a lot of international artists that come to a COP, you know? And then maybe I can run it again so you can I run it again? Yeah. So we asked them questions. What do you want to see at the intersection of science and arts? And that is what was happening in real time, and we created that map. And because it was the COP, there were a lot of indigenous communities, indigenous leaders, so we invited them too. And that kind of took a life of its own. And I was talking to Hugo yesterday, and he called this a ceremony, and I think that is the most appropriate name for it. So this is another picture. There were several hundred people in the audience. It was at the end of the day in the COP, and it was just a very inspiring moment. So this is the map, and you can see it if you use a QR code. You can go to 7 Vortex. This is a platform that we're gonna use today to do the continuation of this. So if you click in each one of those nodes, you will see the connections, and Hugo will probably tell you a little bit more about this. I have now used the platform for teaching, for assessment, for all kinds of things. But what we did is we used this map, and I've been working with artists for a while now, especially musicians, but all kinds of artists. And Humberto Pernett, who is a prominent musician in Colombia, who is, the indigenous leaders call him the keeper of the ancestral sound, was living in town. I always say you never know who you're gonna find in the diaspora. And he was working in Manhattan and would come hang out here, and so we became friends. And I said, I love this song of yours. The name of the song is La Extinción, the extinction. And it's a song that is pretty old, but it really spoke to me after I came back from the COP. And I said, well, why don't we make the music video? And we invited different indigenous communities. 2 of them are going to be represented. At least one of them, because I don't know, has Ramon logged in yet? Yeah, he's a Guarani, like in Nemonte, but from the southern part of the Ecuadorian Amazon. And he has to travel 2 days by foot to get to a place we wanted to bring them, and we had funding to bring them, 2 of them, to this event, and they didn't give them the visa appointment on time, so they're not here today, unfortunately. But they're here in so many other ways. So these are their children, and we asked them to participate in this event, and it's been a really beautiful journey, because you have to, having worked with different communities, you can't, and being sensitive to parachute science as a Colombian, I try to, be very cognizant of how you approach your interaction as you're doing research, or if you're collaborating with indigenous and native communities, because I work a lot with Afro-descendant communities too. In the Colombian Caribbean, there is a lot of Afro-descendant communities. So we built a rapport, and we reached out to these 3 communities. 2 are in the Amazon, 1 in Ecuador, 1 in Colombia, and then in the Caribbean, Sierra Nevada. And we asked them, we told them, they listened to the song, and we said, the song you will see, Humberto is gonna introduce it, takes you to what it could be and to where we are. And I think that the indigenous people have many answers that we're looking for right now in their everyday life. So we asked them to film their interaction with nature and their daily lives. And they agreed to share their intimacy with us. And you will see it in the video. So we wanted to initially launch the video here, but then another opportunity came up through a partnership with, the logo's not there, you'll see it at the end, DJs for Climate Action. So the DJs for Climate Action is a group of DJs around the world that celebrate, instead of Earth Day, they celebrate Earth Night, because that's what they do. And we plugged into Earth Night, and the week, Earth Week, there were events in different cities around the world. And if you go to the Earth Night, social media, it's awesome to see London, Paris State College, and we were there. And what was so, and then we were featured by a journalist in Grist, which is a climate change newsletter. We were talking, I bring a lot of music into the classroom, so we were talking about that and sharing playlists, and I can share all that with you. And then I told her about DJs for Climate Action, and she actually didn't know, so she wrote a story about that. But then she decided to feature our event because Guy Becker is my colleague in the Department of Biology, and Guy is a rocker. But his music is about climate change. So Guy performed that night because Humberto couldn't be there. So we had live music by Guy, and then we launched the video. And these are images that our awesome graphic designer who's here with us came up with for the social media campaign, with pictures from Ramon Uboye from the Waorani community, and this mamo from the Kogi community in the Sierra Nevada of Santa Marta. So because we did that, we wanted to share it with you and share that experience before we get into the mapping. So now I'm going to introduce Hugo, who is going to explain what 7 Vortex is, and it starts to get more interactive from here on out. What do we do?
Hey, hi, everyone. My name is Hugo. I'm going to share my screen.
Espera, porque no estás en la pantalla.
Okay. Maybe you need to stop sharing so we can all see each other in the screen.
I need to stop sharing here. Escape. Leave. Oh, there. Stop share.
Okay, we're there. Hi, everyone.
But we need to wait. We need to put you on this other screen.
Okay.
I don't have my glasses. Okay, you're on the driver's seat now.
Perfect. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Hugo Araujo, and I'm the co-founder.
Speak up a little.
I'm the co-founder of 7 Vortex. And 7 Vortex is this platform where we are mapping ecosystems. So this is the experiment that we're going to do today. My specialization is in biomimicry, which is innovation inspired by nature. And to do that, I spent about 8 different weeks around the world in different ecosystems with biologists, designers, artists, and engineers, trying to better understand the patterns of nature. So when I did this, I became a biomimicry professional, and I'm able to apply the biomimicry thinking process, which is using nature as a mentor, as a model for innovation. So what I did was, in my interest, was to study the networks. So I started with the neural networks, and then I went into the mycelium and the ecosystem, which is all kind of networks that are in nature. And I was wondering, how does it work for all these networks? So how things are connected, and what are the kind of movement and flow that is embedded in this kind of networks. So the first and most important thing is that everything is connected. There is nothing that is non-related in between the parts. And to do that, I went to live, to better understand about ecosystems, I went to live with my family for about 4 years into the wild. And that is in Yucatan. And I started to recognize how an ecosystem works and to be really connected in nature. So what we did is to create a software, a platform that allows us to map and to visualize the energy exchanges. So in nature, you have always 2 organisms that are interacting in between them, and they are exchanging energy. Information could be inside, knowledge also could be inside, but as a first biological pattern, it is about energy exchanges, and this is what we call biological relationships. So we can see here this summary of biological relationships. We tend to use sometimes like symbiosis as a name, for example, for collaboration. But this is the pattern that is behind. So different exchanges, and reality is plus, zero, and minus. And there is always a two-way relationship. So it's better if we understand it like this, because this narrative is aligned with life. So the main thing here is how we can create this isolated information. We have connected it, and then we build it into ecosystemic wisdom, because we are able to see the biological relationships. And nothing of this works as a magic. It is really the process that is behind. And for that, we need all of you and humanity, right? So we are putting information there, and this is what we're going to be creating today. So if you come to the map that we have created before, this was live as Monica showed us, and we can see that it became something really, really big. And I will be creating with you, for example, just from one topic. We can say here humanity, and here the planet. So this is just a way for you to see how it works. And if we tap into the relationship, then we will see that our relationship with the planet right now, it's a predatory relationship. So we are extracting the energy of the planet and in harm of the planet. So if we want to move into a different direction, we should be occupying the niche in a different shape and manner, which is should be adding value to the planetary system. And this is what we call now regeneration. So we'll be mapping around this. The conversation will happen, and I will be just adding the information that you bring onto the conversation. And this is why I'm gonna keep it short, so we can keep moving with the rest of the program, and we have more space for the conversation. Thank you very much. Is that okay, Monica? I think you are around there, but I don't see you anymore. No, nos desconectamos, ¿verdad? Parece.
Google, can you hear us?
It crashed. The internet crashed.
Yeah, we seem to.
That's okay. I can hear you now.
Yeah, we seem to have lost our connection here.
I can see you. Yeah.
Oh,
It's like the internet crash.
Don't worry. It's pretty normal to crash the internet in ceremonies like these ones.
Oh, so then what's gonna happen? Should we like switch to that or?
The gas was crashed too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out.
The whole conference is down.
Perfect timing.
Can you
How
pull
about
up
the
your
weather today? And he was getting good too. He was like talking about the little.
Were you understanding what?
Right.
It's pretty intuitive. I used it in my class this semester, and we made 500 ecosystems. And the learning of the students. Okay, cool.
I've actually been to Monica's class, and it's a very clever workaround from like having them write a book report that they generally use on AI, and it's more intuitive and interactive, and so there's a reinforcement of learning and understanding that I think goes into it, and you just start to see real connections between humanity, biodiversity.
So we need to mute. Too many cooks in the kitchen.
change the audio setting?
I'm just putting some images while you take the control again. I have finished. I cannot hear you, You're on mute. You're on mute, Kevin. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We lost you when the two bubbles, you had put the purple connection.
Yeah, well, that was the...
I think we'll learn as we go.
Yeah,
How about that?
Was the end of the presentation already. So that's okay.
Okay.
I passed the stick. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so then can you take your slide down? I'm going to keep going. Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to here. No. Gosh, that was stressful. Yeah, share. Here, share. So we had Hugo. Ramon never materialized, so we're going to keep going. So, okay. So now we are going to have a short video. It's in Spanish. I will translate. And then Arhuacos. Did I say it right? We just met because he's stepping in he's from the Arhuacos community, and we collaborated primarily with the Kogi community, but they couldn't be here because the guy that was going to be with us, he's the only lawyer for all these communities, so he's in the city doing advocacy. So he's doing the thing. But Arhuacos was stepping in, and he is from the Arhuacos Nation. And he's with us, but I'm going to show a video that they recorded, and then he's going to say a few words, okay? So here.
Le queremos mandar un mensaje a todo el mundo por los cauces que nosotros generamos, por los daños que hacemos a la madre naturaleza. La madre está muy adolorida, está sufriendo, y por eso nosotros tenemos que darle.
I'm so sorry.
Muy buenas tardes. Generamos por los daños que hacemos a la madre naturaleza. La madre está muy adolorida, está sufriendo, y por eso nosotros tenemos que darle consuelo, una pagamento que quiere decir como pedir perdón a la madre. Está herida, muy herida, y por esas razones nosotros los Koguis, los mamos, es muy importante que nos dé la libertad para poder entrar en los espacios sagrados, como por ejemplo algunos sitios sagrados que fueron construidos, que fueron destruidos, y cuando nosotros los mamos, los Koguis, queremos ingresar a realizar pagamento, a pedir disculpas, a hacer un reconocimiento a la madre naturaleza, y no podemos ingresar. Entonces, pues también se necesitaría que nos apoye en este sentido para que nos dé la entrada con libertad. Entonces, por ejemplo, estoy por aquí en Santa Marta, Cagana, y pues vamos a seguir realizando más, multiplicando más espacios sagrados. Por eso necesitamos pues apoyo también, ¿en qué sentido? Para viático, para hospedaje, también para la alimentación y pues cuánto nos gustaría el saneamiento en los puntos sagrados, por ejemplo, se nos devuelva otra vez para nosotros los hijos. Muchísimas gracias.
Los que saben,
¿Cómo?
los que saben, pueden escuchar.
¿Los que qué?
Los que están en Zoom.
Oh, they can't see? I need to tell these guys because I don't know how to fix this. But I'm going to translate all these technical difficulties. Sorry. So what you saw was, I don't know enough about the spirituality of this community. What I do know is that they're extremely spiritual, and they have different ranks of priesthood, so to speak. And there were two of them, a junior one and a more senior one that is like a spiritual leader, and they call them mamos. So the one that spoke referred to the mamo often and pointed to him, the one that was silent. And basically, they are in this territory of Colombia that is considered very sacred and kind of like a center of the universe in the cosmovision. And of course, after colonization, they were shut out. So they live high in the mountains and they come down to the coast. And there is this area that is sacred for them, and they want to access it, and they can for their rituals, because they say that Mother Nature is hurting. Mother Nature is crying because we are not being kind to nature. So that calls for them to come and perform their blessing rituals and tributes to ask for forgiveness from Mother Nature. So that's kind of in a nutshell what they're saying, and that they want support to be able to access these different sacred sites. There is this place called the Black Line that crosses through different locations in their territory, and a lot of it is blocked off by development from government and private owners that are kind of encroaching into their territory. So that's what he's saying.
They should be able to see it.
So now I think he's going to talk. So we need to hand it over to him. This concept we need to find, because several indigenous leaders joined. No, wait, but it's not Hugo. We need Carlos.
If they unmute themselves.
Carlos, es la hora de la intervención de ustedes.
Listo. Muy buenos días, mis hermanos y compañeros del mundo, lo que están oyendo, lo que nos están escuchando en este día. Me alegro mucho encontrarme en este camino, también en la conservación y en la protección de la naturaleza. Mi nombre es Alba Bipumán, izquierdomarque, Arhuaco de la Sierra Nevada, y estoy aquí también participando y también representando los Mamo Koguis que no pudieron participar en este momento por algunas situaciones que tuvieron. Bueno,
Déjame traducir.
Perfecto.
Déjame traducir porque Arhuaquí, ¿lo estoy diciendo bien? Bueno, he's Arhuaco from the Arhuaco Nation, and he's representing both the Kogi Nation and the Arhuaco Nation to speak on behalf of all these communities. Continúa.
Aquí para compartir las causas que están afectando a la naturaleza y todos los organismos que estructuran el cosmos. La mayor catástrofe que está ocurriendo aquí no solo proviene de la naturaleza o los demás seres vivientes, sino viene de los seres humanos, el comportamiento, las conciencias y el pensamiento humano.
Okay,
Entonces,
déjame traducir.
la forma
He's
en
talking-
traducción.
he's saying that the destruction that we are witnessing right now of nature and of their organisms in nature is caused by human actions. Continúa.
Y en ese proceso, hoy en día que estamos atravesando en el calentamiento global y también las causas que afectan a la vida humana y hay lo más importante que es a la naturaleza. Entonces, hoy en día no simplemente debemos ser conscientes de lo que está ocurriendo alrededor y en nuestro interno, sino responsabilizarnos de eso y actuar en consecuencia para seguir fortaleciendo y sosteniendo esa estructura del cosmos que se ha estructurado desde el origen de la creación.
Okay. So that it's no longer important to be aware of the destruction that is taking place, but also to take action to protect Mother Nature as their spirituality, ancestral wisdom dictates from their cosmovision. Oh, something happened.
He's doing something.
Okay,
Do you mind
I was illustrating.
muting yourself.
muting yourself?
¿Algo más?
I was illustrating the conversation.
Sí, un poco más.
Okay.
Un cierre. Entonces, la conciencia que debemos tener es que nosotros, como siempre lo hemos dicho, nosotros, los guardianes de la Sierra Nevada, no somos dueños de la naturaleza, sino hacemos parte de ellas. Por tanto, seamos conscientes y actuemos en nombre de corregir los errores de la humanidad que ha atravesado siglos en nuestra existencia para mantener y sanar la madre tierra y todos los organismos que contiene. Y como aquí en el corazón del mundo hay sitios sagrados donde habitan seres espirituales que orientan y guían los demás seres vivientes, como aguas, piedras, animales, entre otros, y han sido saboteadas, han sido destruidas en algunas partes, y no es provocado por la naturaleza o por los demás animales, sino por la humanidad, que van simplemente en nombre del progreso, pero actúan al contrario y afectan a la naturaleza y van simplemente a través de sus deseos y ambiciones y placeres con quien quiere satisfacerse, y eso es lo que está afectando hoy en día la naturaleza y los demás seres vivientes que nos acompañan en este cosmos.
Okay. So he's saying that we need to be aware that we are not the owners of nature, we are the guardians of nature, and that as the guardians of the heart of the universe, which is where they call this sacred place, they feel responsible to act and help raise awareness to reverse all the damage of centuries that we have inflicted on Mother Nature and the other organisms that are part of it. Did I forget something else?
Ahí, Mónica, precisamente en el video de Pernett, podemos mostrarle a las personas que cuando aparece en el video de la extinción, las imágenes que se compartieron con las comunidades Koguis son precisamente denuncias de lugares sagrados. Por ejemplo, el que aparece ahí con los árboles destruidos y con esa antena gigante de 5G es un lugar que ellos dicen Molcueje. Molcueje significa el espíritu del último padre de la humanidad. En su ley de origen, la Tierra ha sido exterminada 4 veces por culpa del ser humano y va a haber una quinta. Dice que la Tierra exterminio, ¿cierto? Y vuelve y renace del único lugar en el planeta que puede volver a restituirse por sí solo, como la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. Eso es lo que trata de decir Arhuacos y las comunidades ancestrales, es que en el momento en el que la naturaleza soñó con el mundo físico, hizo una maqueta y esa maqueta es la línea negra y por eso es que ellos defienden tanto estos puntos sagrados de línea negra que, como dice Arhuacos, varios de ellos ya están destruidos por la industria, los comercios, y es la invitación a todo el mundo científico y a cualquier persona del planeta Tierra a que tenga conocimiento de este tema de línea negra y entender que todo lo que vemos físico vino del mundo no físico, primero fue pensado. Entonces todos tenemos acceso a ese lugar a través de la espiritualidad, a través de nuestra mente, de nuestro pensamiento, desde donde estemos, y cada cosa, lo que llamamos buena o mala, nace ahí, en esos lugares. Entonces las limpiezas que nosotros generamos aquí y que invitamos al mundo a participar son limpiezas de conciencia no solamente física, sino no física, que están representadas en esa contaminación y destrucción que vemos acá afuera.
Wow, that was a long intervention, but I will try. So, Carlos is a representative of a foundation that helps all these communities do the cleaning. So he was explaining a little bit about the mythology of these nations. So basically, there is the name of a place, I can't remember it, that is the place where the world has emerged 4 times before, and it has died, and there is going to be a new renaissance, a 5th time, and from this place. And it's the only place on earth, based on their mythology, that where this could happen from. And that's why they are so desperate to access all these sacred sites, to clean them, to protect the ancestral origin of humanity and Mother Nature. Right? That was it. Okay, let's keep going so we can keep mapping. Gracias. Ahora pueden volver a intervenir. Where is the share? Share. Okay, so last but not least, we are going to have Humberto do a brief intervention before we show the... Oh, I need to stop sharing it for him to come on. Never mind. So, Humberto.
Hola, hola. Hello. Hello, everybody. How are you, State College? So glad to see you again. And wow, it's a pleasure to me, for me, to be here today talking about this supremely important theme, about the conservation of our planet. This work is amazing because I connect this song that I made like 20 years ago, and this song connects with all that my friend Monica Medina was working by many years, and they was trying to say to the world about this big problem. Like artists, I thought that we have to work together, the science and the art. We have to make a partnership, and this partnership could help to the humanity, because right now the music is used for destroy the mind of the people, for control the mind of the people. But you can use the music to heal the people. You can use the music to send beautiful message, and this is the way we do, to connect this passion for life, because this is a passion for life. When the Koguis or Arhuacos communities, they told about the Sierra Nevada, they are talking about the heart of the world. It's the center of the world. It's this place where the weather, the conditions are like extremely perfect, and all the thermal floors are included in the same mountain. Yeah, that's the reason they say that it's the only place in the world that could be renew again and again, because have all the thermal floors, and that's the reason we say that it's like like a mini world inside the world. Yeah, and it's in the magical thinking, when you see when you work in magic, something small could be the same big. Yeah, and it's like a reflection of that. That's the reason that we are all connect with these people. We are all connect with this place because it's the heart of the world, and this message come from there. Yeah, from the heart of the world to the rest of the world and say, hey, stop. It's time for stop. You are destroying me. You come here to this sacred place. This is a sacred place in the world, you know, it's a hidden place. And if this hidden place is being destroyed, the world is because the world is destroyed, you know. We have to stop. And this is the message of this song, La Extinción. The extinction is the extinction of humanity. The humanity is taking a strange movement, like an idiot, you know, destroying itself. And these songs talk about that, you know, the work of politics, the work of the war machine, the work of that system that have to stop. It's like we say bruto in Espanol. How we say in English bruto? You know, it's like knob. You know, it's time to stop that. It don't serve to anything. You know, we need to grow like humanity. We need to be free and be in peace, you know. And that's the reason that the musicians try to make songs like that to send a message. And this is the song. You have prepared the song? Do you prepare the song, Monica?
Yeah, it's coming next on the presentation.
Okay, thanks to Monica Medina, who was the producer of this video, to Vivian, yeah, and she was the director, and Colin, and all the collaborators, you know, and all the people around the world who put their hands to make this possible. Okay, this is the video of La Extinción. Thanks to everyone for take this time and enjoy, please. This is Colombian music.
Okay. So how do I share? Okay. It's coming. All right. It's on YouTube, but we have a download of the high resolution. All right. Here we go.
Van a acabar el mundo y mandarnos pa' otra parte. Seguramente ya tienen playas y hoteles en Marte. Actuando con la conciencia de un suicida potencial. Rociando veneno aquí, echando veneno allá. No hay respeto por la vida, no hay respeto ya por nada. Y todos los días se ve como reina la crueldad. Hay calles donde hubo selvas y puentes donde hubo arroyos. Después máquinas por hombres, se perdió el valor de todo. Siglos atrás.
Por aquí, por allá, se tiñe la humanidad.
Abusando de la tierra y de su autoridad.
Por aquí, por allá, se extingue la humanidad.
Con su vicio y con su juicio, se extingue la humanidad. Se extingue la humanidad. Con el juicio, viejo Miguel. Murieron las tradiciones y llegó la involución. En la era de la caverna quizás se vivía mejor. Aunque hay electricidad, carro y computador, ya no no se respira aire, ahora se respira smog. La lluvia que era bendita se convirtió en fuego y plomo. Y los mares son piscinas para bombas de plutonio. Algún día si te vas de este hermoso paraíso, ten cuidado de ti mismo y vive sin egoísmo.
Por aquí, por allá se extingue la humanidad.
Entre guerras y peleas desde hace siglos atrás.
Por aquí, por allá se extingue la humanidad.
Abusando de la tierra y de su autoridad.
Por aquí, por allá se extingue la humanidad.
En el cielo y hasta en Marte están gritando que crueldad.
Por aquí, por allá se extingue la humanidad.
Con su vicio y con su juicio se extingue la humanidad. Se extingue la humanidad. Se extingue la humanidad.
Yeah, well, I just wanted them to run the credits, but we'll give her the credit afterwards. Oh, let's go, because the director of the movie is another one of my grad students who is an amazing filmmaker, and she couldn't be here today, so I wanted you guys to see her, and she's at the end of the thing. Oh, I don't know how to go to the end of it. Can I? There. No. There it is, Vivian. And then the communities. And then, yeah, I wanted you guys to see this in case we don't get to it, all the different this event and the money that we had allocated to bring the indigenous people here was given to us through Howard Hughes, a fellowship that is associated with Colin's PhD, but they couldn't come. So we do have a fundraiser. If we have time, I'll give you the GoFundMe to the QR code for that, or maybe we could go to that if you guys want to grab it before we start mapping, in case you feel inspired to donate to the communities. We have a GoFundMe, since Penn State won't allow me to give them the HHMI money, of course. Unfortunately, we make some swag that we can sell. If you guys want to buy some swag, we have bags. Or donate.
Happy to do any for this cause and share as a gift.
Yeah, we have stickers and bags anyway, but that's not the purpose of this meeting. So I think now we are ready to start live vortexing. Hugo?
Yes. Got it.
We share.
So I just wanted to share this as an intro.
So, oh shoot.
I just wanted to share this as an intro. You tell me when you're ready, but.
We are ready. We are ready.
Yeah. So you can
Go
see
ahead.
a small vortex there, and this is just
Yes.
a representation of what I've heard, especially from the Mamo, the Kogi, and it's about how things are connected and how everything could be in the same space, as healing also being used as protection, for example, of nature, and how humanity is harming nature. And we are having a lot of impact through our actions. So it's really time to raise consciousness for the healing. And they know this cosmos structure that is ruling So I think they can let us know a little bit from what they know in their own science or their own knowledge. So this is just an example, and now I'm gonna create one for this conversation. So we start from scratch, and from here I will make appear bubbles. So the floor is yours, Monica. Let me know what do you want me to map and how.
I think, yeah. So we're gonna pass the microphone around. I would start simply with the name of the session, coalition. I would start with coalition and what you guys want to see at the intersection of this coalition that we have formed, because at the COP, it was aspirational, but now we have a coalition of indigenous leaders, artists, and scientists that can grow, and you're welcome to join it, and it's, unstructured, but what can we do with this coalition? So we'll hand over the microphone to you so Hugo can hear you on map. Anybody?
It's just a question. Does your coalition extend beyond your region, that Colombia?
Of course.
Does it include other regions, and how do you think of reaching out to other indigenous communities outside?
This has been an act of love, but there is so much love that things keep happening. So I don't have a structure. This is all things that we've done with very little funding or no funding, but we have all grown together as a coalition. And a lot of these resources, we put stuff up on my website, and people reach out, like the DJs for Climate Action just reached out this morning. They're like, oh, we have not interacted with any scientists. And they have 40 events. They had 40 events around the world, the DJs. So it's an invitation, I guess. I don't want to organize more things necessarily because I'm pretty tapped out as it is, but I do invest a lot of energy when I see an opportunity, and when Pernett was living in town, what are the odds of something like that happening? He's a very important figure in Colombia and Latin America because of his music. He does electronic cumbia, and that's a big genre. And he was here. And I just, talked to him, and we ran with it. So it's just, I guess, an invitation because it takes a village, and we're 99%, to quote Bernie Sanders and AOC, and they're the 1%, and all the 99% need to be all in whichever way we can to address the climate crisis. So I can't give you concrete answers like that, but these are, kind of a spiritual movement, I want to call it. And Hugo called it a ceremony. And I think this is another ceremony that we are charting a path forward. I don't want to be doing all the talking. You guys should talk.
You
can start mapping.
Yeah.
Right. So at this moment, the idea is to produce this kind of integrative map with input from the crowd, and it's more of like inspiration from what you've seen today, the music video, thinking about those biodiverse places that we visited, thinking about the inputs of our indigenous communities and the language they use. Something that I think of a lot looking at this and some of the terminology. A lot of the indigenous communities refer to human consumption as it's hurting like the ecosystem. There's like a physical pain that you feel that I think maybe is a disconnect from maybe some other more industrialized communities who don't necessarily feel the connection between their consumption and how it destroys natural wild spaces. And so this idea is trying to use art to maybe build that connection and make it more visible. And so in your own perspectives, looking at some of the big bubbles that we see here, where do you think there's some connections that lie? Are there any things that we could add here, like with art? Something that I thought of, Hugo, is connecting art with the scientists and indigenous communities, because having all three of those people groups working together, I think we can create something unique and novel, something like this.
To give a more concrete answer, I've been thinking a lot about this at the event in Yawa, the Science Museum in Cali. We collected, people are hungry for this, it's clear, because there was so many options at the COP, and it was really hard to get around in the city, because the city doesn't have a subway, and people turned up for this, and they wrote down their contact information so we could do that. For starters, because I have that list, I handed it to Yawa. It was, a local crowd. So I think the intervention there should be local by the Science Museum, but we are more of a global crowd, right? And how do we do this? And I've been thinking about it, but we've been preoccupied with this. I'm also moving. My lab is moving to UCLA, which I'm very stoked about. Where it's a place where a lot of these things are are easier to implement with so many artists and interest around. Like I recently communicated with the LA Philharmonica because they did a piece about coral reefs. So long story short, I think I need to create, a feed on Blue Sky. I need to create an email list. I need to do more of that. But right now we're just growing organically. So if you find me, I can give you my email address and just reach out. Artists reach out, and sometimes I know the right person for them, and I did a lot of that at the COP because very few scientists were coming to the artists, and the artists were all hungry for scientists. And in my humble opinion, I am tired of preaching to the choir. It's just silly. But if you go to a concert, it's just the energy is so incredible, right? And there is artists, more and more musicians, especially in my opinion, have control of the crowd right now. And if we could partner with musicians, influential musicians right now, we could have such a broad reach because the setting, it's almost spiritual, or it can be, right? If the lyrics are right. And at the COP, Colombia is a very musical place, and at the COP there was a concert in every corner and every stadium. There were 4 or 5 big concerts happening every day, and I went to the main concert and I gave feedback to the ministries. I'm like, this feels like an advertisement for the National Tourism Association, which is very easy to do in Colombia with Colombian images. It was a missed opportunity, and I feel like every COP is a missed opportunity in this space because you have all these incredible minds, all the scientists that know all of the facts. There were 40,000 people. That was the biggest audience. And no scientists, There were a few of us in the audience, and they're the artists saying, oh, there is pollution here and there in one of the interventions between songs. It's just, I think that there is a lot to be done in that space, given the urgency. And the ones that have the microphones is not us. And they're the ones that are adored by the audiences. So they need to step up, in my opinion. But they need to step up with the right information, and right now they don't have it. So I'm making space from my busy, end of career life to do that, because but we need more people. So reach to your artists, keep us informed. And
Can you share something?
I'm sorry I came in a few minutes late, so I may have missed something that you can totally cut me off and say I'm off base. But when you're talking about artists, it does seem like a little bit that it's more on musicians. Like one of the things that a grant that I wrote that I did not get, but I think because of the reasons we've spoken about here, where art is not valued in this space enough, is with a type of climate fiction literature called hope punk, which is all about it's not that it doesn't have dystopian aspects, because climate change has a lot of dystopian qualities, but it is climate change with a perceived positive future. Like, what could the world like if we valued, if we go through this stage where things are being destroyed, which, like it or not, we're in this space. But what would it look on the other side if we didn't imagine the total apocalypse, but instead we imagined a positive climate future? What would be valued that isn't valued? What would spaces be used? What would we, where would we reprioritize? And some of that literature is hard to read because it has a depressing aspect, but some of it is beautiful. And to me, it's the literature that can also speak to young adults, can speak to children, right? We don't want to just speak to, our age, right? We want to speak to all generations. And I think obviously music and art can transcend age. In the hierarchy that is academic science, we mostly value, the elders and the well-published. But I think hope punk literature, which is what it's called, has a space that could contribute to this. I'm happy to exchange emails and talk more about that, because I think there are already authors doing that. I mean, I know there are. And there are certainly ways that we could potentially do, like writing contests and things to encourage young people to enter this space. And, and because evidence does show from a scientific perspective that if you imagine a positive future, you are actually more likely to engage in pro-environmental behaviors.
I love that. Yeah, I think I would like to collect everybody's emails that is interested in staying in touch. I hadn't heard of Hope Punk. And one thing I shared earlier before you came in, I think, is that I do bring art into the classroom. And they just respond better to music, the students. And that's why. But not necessarily. There was a broad photography, sculpture, dance, through videos, of course, and painting, so plastic arts too, and we use 7 Vortex, which is what Hugo is doing right now that you see. And one thing, and he came throughout the semester, we did hundreds of assignments, because every week I asked him, summarize what you learned. And I gave them a minimum, and some of them did the minimum, 7 bubbles, but 2 of the bubbles had to be new. But some of them went to town, and there was, 60 bubbles with new information, and they were clearly learning through these. And through that journey, they were creating their own thinking. So the growth that I saw, that they didn't see because they only saw their own experience, right? It was amazing, because instead of a weekly quiz, they were doing this. And then Hugo came and polled them. And I did this thing called the ANCESTRAL. I don't have time to go into that, which is awesome. And they did presentations at the end of that, and they used medium, whatever medium they wanted. And some of them did poetry and sculpture and whatever not. But they talked, every single one of them, about the destruction of coastal ecosystems. Despite that, what 7 Vortex did for them is give them hope, because of what you're saying. So he said, how many of you feel hopeful about the future? And the entire class, 30-something of them, raised their hands. So there is a way, and that's why I want to spend time in this space, because for me it's so hard. Every time I go into a reef and I see my organisms die, I need to find hope somewhere. And I think that's what we are all dealing with, this eco-anxiety. And I think art provides that hope to hold on, to get to the other end of what you're describing. Thank you.
And I love the comic book idea. That's great. I love, as a kid growing up, I watched a lot of anime, so that's a very popular thing nowadays. And yeah.
My students did several essays that were comic books or children's stories that were hopeful. Anybody? I think we're it's 2 minutes. Another intervention?
Don't let me keep you from lunch. Maybe you can translate for me. My Spanish is very bad. So I have a question about the 7 vortex mapping. And I was wondering whether it's possible to draw multiple types of relationships, specifically focusing on these connections. Because so far I only see one type of relationship connecting the bubbles, but what about conflicting relationships? So for example, what we've seen, is that you can have very positive but also very negative relationships between the planet and humanity. What we've seen from our indigenous, speakers today, they can also be very positive. Or for example,
He's doing it for you.
Yeah, is it possible to show like 2 at the same time?
Yeah. What are the other ideas?
Or like in a different one we had, for example, conservation and humanity, and we can see that being both very positive but also very violent. So I was wondering whether it's possible to show those conflicting relationships somehow.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. It is possible to establish one relationship at a time, not multiple. But I think it is about the addition of energies, addition, subtractions of energies. So this is why we're just visualizing one. And I have put, for example, here in just your example, in between the positive and negative future, it seems to be in competition. So this warlike kind of environment, it is what is making or losing energy. And this is what we need to address. So you can use one by one, but you can use the 5 or the 6 different relationships. It depends on the combination. So, for example, maybe there are not enough events so far. So maybe we need to do a little bit better here, or you just want to signal that this is a relationship that needs to be seen in a different way, and this is neutral. And so yes, you can create the ecosystem, but I was just trying to focus on the things that were very, very clear, and this is why I was using the positive. But now that you brought the competition into the conversation, I'm adding a red one.
Hugo, can we share? I don't know how to share. If you go, can they go into 7 vortex right now and start mapping? It's collaborative, but I don't know if it's a public one, and then you can all grab it. And if you want to put your contact information in there, that's a way for me to.
We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it a public and a collaborative as well. So the ecosystem is now collaborative, and it is in the 7vortex.com. When you get there, you can see this one, and you just click on it, and you will have an access here like this one to edit inside there, and you can add bubbles and connections. You cannot make everything to move, but you can add connections and bubbles on your own way. Right? It takes 3-4 seconds to be seen in the screen, but it is collaboration real time. Yeah.
Does anybody want to try?
So you can add whatever you feel, and you can change your own connection or your own bubble.
So Hugo is the senior editor, but now we can all go in and edit the ecosystem.
Yeah, what I'm reading is this idea. For example, I'm trying to make the shape of the Hope Punk Coalition, because it seems that we are focusing on this positive future, right? But when you bring the negative, then we also need to address that, and let's see where it goes from now. But I'm trying to add the information like this. Did I answer your question?
Yes. I was just thinking about like a bubble that I would add between like young people and art and science is kind of the homogenization of art. And when I look on like social media, you can see there are like for photography and things like that, there are very specific color schemes that are really popular that you see in a lot of the top accounts. And
what did you say? What was the word that you used? Sorry.
Homogenization.
Okay.
So it's kind of just, and then when you're looking for inspiration or something to kind of inspire your own work, then you end up with these very similar accounts and views and color schemes. And then if you go into nature and you try to experience this and you realize like, oh, the color scheme is different than what I'm actually seeing or than what is actually present, then it's kind of, I don't want to say disappointing, but when you're trying to get young people involved in having these experiences, these diverse ecosystems, I think a lot of what you see is not necessarily what you're going to experience, and that disconnect, and that might be influencing why maybe you have young people with fewer and fewer of these experiences, because they go in with this preconceived notion of what they're going to see, based on what's present in social media and a lot of the editing and the color schemes and all of that that's really popular across these nature-based accounts.
So the social media is really doing a lot just to homogenize this perspective, and they are doing it in all the devices, right?
Yeah.
And what it sounds like, there's both a positive interaction with social media and communicating, but then also needing...
I cannot hear.
So kind of what you're saying is like there's a positive interaction between social media and trying to bring awareness, but then there's maybe a step on social media where things can be exaggerated. Is that the case? Or you kind of have these unrealistic expectations of what is presented, and then you go there and it doesn't, there's maybe a disconnect. And so there's maybe like, what kind of relationship would you describe that as? Is that more of like a competition, more like commensal or neutral, or what do you think?
I don't know how I would describe it, but I know, like, so I also scuba dive, and I started scuba diving when I was, I think, 13. And I remember swimming and like flipping over, and the fish really love the bubbles that are coming when you're like breathing out. And I had this school of fish like following me around. And that's when I realized, like, oh, this is like a different world. This isn't even just like part of the world I live in. This is its own individual existence. And I remember recently I went scuba diving and I was showing one of my friends some of the videos from it. And he was like, oh, this reef is like unhealthy, or like there's no colors or anything like that. And I was like, well, it's because the light and the color scheme like down there is very different, because the way the light goes through the water, you have certain colors that are filtered out. And so I think there's kind of this disconnect between like what, if you've already seen a lot of this and you've seen a lot of these like videos of reefs that have been edited and things like that, you have a different perspective of what like a healthy, good ecosystem looks like compared to like when I was 13 scuba diving for the first time. I had no expectations, right? Yeah, sort of this like distortion of reality. But then there's the flip of it. There is that it's very positive, because, you know, if you live in the center of the United States, you maybe you don't go scuba diving when you're 13, but you can still see these like beautiful videos of schools of fishes and sharks and things like that, and still appreciate the beauty of it. So it is kind of, it's a push and pull, but I do think there's harm in the way that we're over editing these experiences and things like that, to fit what would be very popular on social media. So,
Well, I think we're several minutes past our time. I want to thank you all for coming and thinking outside the box with us.
And it was cool.
Get in the face.
Oh. Yes. We really appreciate. Thank you. Putting that together.
So, if you want to reach out to me on be friends, and I'll post this one for you.
La persona
Are you okay?
Good.
Alrighty.
La persona que
I think we're back
me dijo del
really
GAN,
well.
que no, la del
Le digo.
Japón,
I don't know.
dejó su tarjeta para.
Where
Sí, gracias.
who's talking? Maybe this one. Oh yeah. Okay. So appreciate everybody. I think that went. Can you hear me? I think that went really well. We just wrapped up the session, and so we really appreciate everybody's input and time to speak. And Hugo, that interaction was great. I think it was really cool to see the work in real time. And Pernett, it's great to hear from you and your advice and inputs. And the music video, I think it turned out really well. We got a lot of great reactions from the video. So, and to the indigenous communities, mucho gusto. Para tiempo, yeah, we really appreciate your time and sharing your insights. Muchas gracias, señores. Yeah.
Okay, ya se han ido todas las personas, o sea que podemos hablar en español.
Bueno, acá nosotros también desde Colombia, desde Taganga, la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, queremos agradecer con todo el corazón el trabajo tan excelente que Mónica, con todo su equipo, Hugo, eso que tú estás haciendo nos inspira muchísimo, queremos implementarlo, aprender, acá estábamos hablándolo. Humberto, tu inspiración, mira todo lo que hizo, eres nuestro Jate Matuna. Y quiero que sepan todas las personas que están allí que les invitamos a Taganga, al corazón del mundo, a la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, a vivir nuestras experiencias. Y que si alguno quiere de pronto comprender un poquito más de nuestras actividades, manejamos unas redes sociales por Instagram y Facebook que son This Concept, como aparece acá en mi, a ver, aquí, This Concept con K, ahí. Y pues muchas gracias por la oportunidad de poder nosotros mostrar un poquito de la problemática que nosotros enfrentamos día a día a beneficio colectivo de todo el mundo. Nosotros estamos encargados de estos puntos cercanos, soñamos con una paz mundial, sabemos que no la logramos si no es con una paz con la naturaleza y por eso abordamos el tema desde ahí. Un agradecimiento profundo a todo el departamento científico por estar en este tema de la forma en que lo están haciendo.
Ok, gracias, Carlos.
Bueno, también
Después
les agradezco mucho también por el espacio y por también invitarnos y hacer parte de este trabajo y este camino que estamos trazando un lazo para conexiones y también seguir fortaleciendo y seguir continuando, conservando la cultura y conservando la vida y el equilibrio en el cosmos. Así que éxitos en nuestros trabajos y también que tengan una maravilla vidas y que le vayan bien en sus trabajos.
Gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias y espero visitarlos pronto. En agosto voy por allá.
Eso.
Chao. Gracias. Bye bye.
Bye.
Gracias.